So we've watched season 1, and we just recently heard about an event that occurred between season 1 and season 2. Now it's time to start watching season 2 of Welcome to Plathville. Season 1 wrapped up in December of 2019 when Mariah was announcing that she's going to go live with her grandparents in Minnesota. And then Michael was just starting modeling. Season 2 doesn't pick up until nearly a year later in November of 2020. So what's everyone up to now?
It was a bad example for the younger children. Mike and Mariah kept pushing the limits, and it was just time for them to move out.
Oh, so Micah and Mariah got kicked out of the house. Isn't Mariah 17? Anyways, did you also notice that Kim used the phrase bad example for the children again, even though in the last season we saw her apologizing to Olivia for saying that? I don't know, maybe renting a house and being on their own will be good for Micah and Mariah.
In the last 6 months, so much has changed. I moved out of the house, / got kicked out. I had got to the point where I was just starving for freedom and just didn't follow the rules my parents had set.
I really want to focus on this next scene because of everything that's happening within season 5 and just modern day information. It seems that Mariah has forgotten this part of her life and how she felt so controlled and misunderstood.
They tried to control literally everything. What we ate, what we wore.
It also seems that Kim has given Micah and Mariah the same rules that she gave Ethan and Olivia in the last season.
I'm really not allowed to see my younger siblings unless my parents are there. I still try to keep a positive attitude about it, but it is hard at times.
Micah and Mariah are not the only ones who moved out, though. That season 1 paycheck must have hit real hard because the entire Plath family moved.
A couple of months ago, we went through a massive change. We moved off the farm and moved to a beautiful house in Cairo.
Cairo? Isn't that where Olivia and Ethan live? Unfortunately for the Plath children, nothing really changed just because they moved.
Pretty much things are still the same as they were at the farm in terms of our family's rules. That means no phones for the children, supervised movies, supervised internet, no social media, little to no sugar, appropriate clothing, no video games, and no rock music in the house.
No. It seems to be the only word that Kim knows. That and bad influence. Those are the only things she's ever saying. We already know that the months leading up to season 2 were not kind to Olivia and Ethan and their relationship with Kim and Barry. But let's hear what Kim has to say about it.
There was a day 3 or 4 months ago that Ethan came over to our house and told us he wanted nothing to do with us ever again.
So what does that mean for Ethan and the relationship he has with his siblings?
We have told Ethan, if they want to see some of the younger siblings, come over, be with all of us. And they're not willing to do that.
Wow, that's super shocking, Kim. I'm sorry to hear about how much of a victim you are in this situation and how you haven't caused any reason for him not to want to come over and speak to you. Okay, so what's going on with Lydia? Well, because she no longer has the giant farm to walk around and talk to God, she now has her personal prayer closet.
I could actually write down my prayers and stick them up as a reminder every day. It's been really helpful.
Please bring us all back together. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
As the show transitions over to Olivia and Ethan's house, we get to see just how close the Plath family actually did move to Ethan and Olivia.
It's like 0.3 miles from our house. I mean, I can't go to the grocery store or go to work without practically driving right by it.
I cannot imagine the stress of that. Deciding to set a hard boundary with your family of origin and telling them that you just don't want them a part of your life, at least for this moment, and then them moving into your neighborhood is so invasive. That also means, though, that Micah and Mariah are just down the street because they didn't move far from the Plath family either.
Last year, Ethan and I took Mike and Mariah under our wing a lot, and this year it looks a whole lot different because now they're off flying on their own and doing their own thing, making their own friends, so we don't see them as often. But when we do, we have fun.
I can't help but fixate on this clip now that we know that Micah and Mariah ended up choosing to go along with Barry and Kim, especially with the credit card story. I'm speaking modern day, as they definitely remain team Olivia and Ethan for quite a while throughout the show. But current day, they're on Kim and Barry's side. And based off of this clip, it sounds like neither of them were even around when the whole credit card thing happened. So why are they so certain that Olivia is lying and that she's just telling this awful side of the story about their mom, who they once had issues with as well? In a vulnerable moment, Olivia and Ethan discuss how divorce was on the table for them, but they decided to fight for their relationship.
Just got to the point of like, if this is gonna work, we're gonna have to fight really hard for this and cut out everything that doesn't want us to make it.
After months of avoiding the Plath family, Micah and Mariah decide that they really do need to go pick up their mail, and they head over to the Plath house. They agree on the way there not to split up and just avoid getting cornered by their parents.
This doesn't feel like home. It feels like a trap, a cage that I worked so hard to get out of, and I don't like going back.
Weirdly, they get split up almost immediately, and Micah heads over to Isaac's room so that he can play guitar with him. However, shocker, someone decides to interrupt almost immediately.
I know that Micah and Isaac want some privacy, but right now there's just some trust that has to be built back up. We've seen things in Micah that we don't want to rub off on Isaac, like bitterness against us, for example.
Conversations like these are why Kim is so scared of Micah talking to Isaac.
Respect our parents, but like think for yourself. Like question things and build up your own idea and opinion of things.
Meanwhile, Mariah decides to catch up with Lydia.
Do you ever feel like you just want to experience the outside world?
I experienced the outside world just enough to know that I don't want to be like that. You have a different journey than me.
I'm glad that you understand that.
One thing I've appreciated Lydia for throughout this show is her deep desire to love others. She doesn't hold the judgment and fear-mongering that her parents seem to constantly put on these children. She may disagree with how Mariah is living her life, but she doesn't really stand in the way of it either. She doesn't actively try to stop her. Of course, Barry comes home from work and sees that Micah and Mariah are at the house, so he asks if they can all chat in the backyard with Kim.
I have so many people that whenever you post something on social media, they screenshot it and send it to me.
Like who?
Just a bunch of people. So, I mean, I always know what you're up to.
Great start to the conversation, Kim.
I know you have a boyfriend.
You have a boyfriend?
I don't want to talk about that.
In an attempt to lighten up the conversation, Barry begins to ask Mariah if she's still planning on going to college.
You gonna go like to a 2-year college, 4-year college?
I want to eventually, but I'm not sure that y'all realize how much work there will be beforehand to prepare myself for that.
This comment leads Micah into discussing his frustration with how Kim homeschooled them.
Like, I would say that's my biggest frustration with how we were raised. The education was a huge preparation that we didn't get.
Here is what Kim heard him say.
The mistake that I made with Ethan and Micah is letting them go work when they didn't have their schoolwork done. So I told Lydia and Isaac, you're doing your schoolwork.
While being stricter on schoolwork is likely an overall good thing for these kids, it doesn't actually seem like the curriculum that they do leads to a high school diploma. So I don't really see the full point.
None of us have a diploma. We all have to get our GEDs if we're going to do anything with our lives.
Thankfully, TLC found this family, and these kids are likely set for life. However, what if they hadn't been on a TV show? What was Kim hoping for them to do for the rest of their lives? Was their only option to be a housewife, a farmer, or maybe a mechanic? The conversation slightly shifts, and Micah begins asking why the kids were never taught about sex. And Kim just kind of reverses it on them and says it's because they haven't been approachable these last few years. Ignoring the why as to why your kids won't talk to you can be dangerous, but shifting the full blame on them is just ridiculous. Micah shares what he hopes is their takeaway from this entire conversation.
I guess just like one of the biggest takeaways from this is please give my younger siblings a better chance in the world.
The conversation wraps up and concludes episode 1. Episode 2 then opens up with Micah doing a photo shoot with Helena, who we saw in season 1, except this time it is far sexier than a little boutique.
There we go. That was a good shot.
Although I am usually against the Plath parents, I really do appreciate Barry's attempt in this next scene. It seems like he took what Micah said to heart and he decided to discuss girls with Isaac. Unfortunately, he's incredibly awkward about it.
Is there anything right now that you're thinking, hey, I have a question about this topic?
I wasn't ready for this. I thought we were just chopping down trees.
Anytime, if you have a question,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Oh, poor Isaac even having to go through that. I love this next scene of Olivia and Ethan because it feels very real. I'm pretty confident almost the exact same thing has actually happened to me and my husband at least once to each other. For context, Olivia is working on revamping her photography website because so many of her scheduled weddings were canceled due to the pandemic, and she's low on work at this point. So she's just been up all night working on this revamp.
Why don't I make you breakfast? What if I made pancakes with this side and then the pancakes would have a design in them?
I'm trying to work, and Ethan's not really skilled at reading people or reading a room.
Is there like an apron or something I could wipe my hands on? Sorry to bother you, but I do have a question. Why is this lumpy?
I know you thought that this would be like funny or fun, but it's just all very irritating for some reason. I'm about to cry and it's so stupid, but my period started this morning and I'm really hormonal and I have stomach cramps and I don't feel like eating carbs that are gonna make me bloat, and I just, it's horrible timing, and
Ooh. Growing up as a kid, I really don't think any of us, especially not me, were given any type of a tool set to understand emotions, deal with difficult things in relationships and stuff. Trying to communicate emotions with my parents, that never happened, that connection was never made.
I don't think that what Ethan's talking about here is an unusual issue. The thing that really impresses me is when people are willing to learn and not hold on to the, my parents didn't teach me this, so I can't. Trust me, I'm struggling. I am still learning how to communicate my feelings and emotions too.
I'm sorry you had a bad day. I'm sorry for annoying you. If you want to go work somewhere else, I can finish making pancakes, and if you don't want to eat any, you don't have to.
I love that he didn't just apologize, but he demonstrated that he actually heard what she was saying by saying that she doesn't have to eat the pancakes. The next thing he says here makes me so mad at Kim. Just because men don't experience periods does not mean that they're excused from understanding what they are and how they impact people.
Out of all the kids, there were 6 girls, 3 boys. I never knew that there was such a thing as a period until I was dating Olivia.
Come on, Kim and Barry. I mean, I started dating my husband when he was 16 years old, and although he only has 2 brothers, he knew the absolute basics of a period. He had a lot to learn about the specifics of how my specific cycle affects me and all of those finer details, but at least I didn't have to define period for him. The show switches over to Mariah's house where she's having dinner with Lydia and finally gets Lydia to spill the tea on who her crush is.
My mystery man, I've known him for several years. It's taken me several years to realize that I still like him.
I would give it a shot. I would maybe write him a letter or something. I don't know, just something small and simple and sweet. Like, it doesn't have to be much. Just let him know that you're thinking of him.
Switching over to Ethan, he begins talking about his love for fixing cars and bikes.
When I'm working on an old car, I'm working on a motor or my motorcycle, my entire focus is taken off of whatever was bothering me before. And I think that's part of the reason why I work on old cars so much and just work on things so much, is because it's definitely an escape. And I just wish I was as good at fixing relationships as I am fixing cars.
It's nice to hear Ethan voice all of that and to get his viewpoint, but fast forwarding into season 4, it's still an ongoing issue. He is incredibly avoidant and oftentimes leaves Olivia completely hanging because of it.
I feel like a lot of the strain in our relationship came from instances where I was not standing up for my wife or having her back.
I also have compassion for Ethan because I know he was raised to respect and honor his parents. How is a shy guy who is not in touch with himself or his emotions supposed to completely abandon that perspective? He should absolutely be standing up to his parents when they disrespect his wife, but that's not an easy thing to ask of someone, especially as young as Ethan. It's unfair to both him and Olivia, unfortunately. For this next scene, I'm going to try my best and forget everything that we current day know about Max and just think of him as Mariah's cute first boyfriend. I'm sorry to slightly spoil that ending for you.
This is my first real date that I've been on, and I do not regret saving it for this guy.
The date is pretty simple and it's cute. Max picks Mariah up on his motorcycle and they head over to a small diner.
I have 8 siblings.
Okay, same.
Really?
Well, there's 8 total, including me.
Wow.
Continuing their discussion about family, Mariah mentions how strict her parents are, and Max pushes for some more details.
Anytime that I asked to go out anywhere, my parents just said no.
So then I started sneaking out, and that got kind of messy.
I can imagine.
The night that I met you, that was the night that my parents told me I had to leave.
Really?
So now Max knows a little bit more about Mariah's situation. The date comes to an end, as well as episode 2.
When something emotional comes up, I usually throw my focus into music, and then I feel like I can kind of process it while doing that.
I'd love to hear this song.
Okay, this is me being a total hater, so I slightly apologize, but I'd have to put it out there. I feel so uncomfortable whenever I see Mariah singing, or I guess hear her singing. Her lyric writing is just so bland, and her voice just does not sound good to me at all. It reminds me of when I would go to my grandma's church growing up, and there was this lady behind me who just thought that she was the most talented singer in the universe, and she would just belt it out, but it just sounded awful. Okay, I'm sorry. This next clip of Olivia and Ethan remind me so much of me and my husband. I know I just said that about the pancake scene, but I actually got my first tattoo on my 18th birthday, and he came with. But I do remember the weeks leading up to it, he told me that he didn't really like tattoos, and it upset me so much that I was very close to canceling my appointment. Then I came to the same conclusion that Olivia talks about here. At the end of the day, I am my own person.
I'm my own person, and if this is a choice that I want to make and something I want to do to my body, then I should have the freedom to do that. It's not that I don't care what he thinks, but it's that he can't make that decision for me.
She isn't talking about a tattoo, though. She's actually getting her navel pierced.
You're not gonna pass out on me, are you? Did you watch it happen?
Yeah?
You look shocked.
Pay attention to Kim in this next clip. It feels like anytime she's talking, Barry is an active listener and he's very responsive to everything she's saying. However, she just looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. I don't know. Maybe it was just an off day.
So we decided to use our farm as an investment property. So we're out at the farm today getting things cleaned up so we can get everything ready to rent.
Kim is constantly wondering why Mariah won't open up to her. And then she pulls shit like this.
Going through the upstairs closet where Mariah spent a lot of time, I'm finding these things that she's written on the wall. Almost like songs or poetry, but a little dark edge to it. They're trying to take our voices, so we scream loud, louder, but you can't stop the girl. I knew Mariah was unhappy, but I guess I didn't really realize she was hurting that bad.
First off, Don't read your child's poetry, song lyrics, whatever it may be, without them knowing. Just take it off the wall, put it in an envelope, and mind your damn business. 2, what do you mean that you didn't realize she was hurting this bad? She may not want to talk to you, but I don't know, watch season 1? Finally, do you think that someone who got kicked out of their house when they were 17 would not be hurting? Kim, you drive me insane.
It just makes me all the more determined to not let this happen with my younger children, to stay close to them and do whatever I can do to not let it happen again.
Well, the 3 kids that you cut off have told you that it was because of how sheltered you raised them. And you're still sheltering everyone. So what do you actually mean by whatever you can do? I don't know. I'm calling bullshit. For the first time, we see the Plath family hang out with another family.
The family that is renting our farm right now is from Australia. They invited us over for the children to meet and have fun, and we're looking forward to it.
Let's hope that this family isn't too secular for the Plaths.
They've introduced me to this concept called world schooling, where the world is their school, and they're learning as they travel.
Barry is the most animated dude ever. Why does he talk like that? Okay, anyways, this other family that's visiting says a comment about the Plath family.
In some way we can relate to the Plaths because we have deliberately taken them out of middle school and high school and provided a different kind of education. So I can see the appeal of creating a beautiful little world to live in, but at the same time I think if you do that you're possibly missing out on what else the world has to offer, which can also be beautiful.
Beautifully said. As mentioned last season, the Plath family only celebrates birthdays. So Olivia, Ethan, Mariah, and Micah decide to go get some fireworks and celebrate the 4th of July.
Ethan, I see one I want.
What's that?
While sitting around the campfire, they begin talking about dating and how their view of it is different than how they were raised. Olivia shares what I think is incredibly common for Christians. My situation wasn't even close to being strict, but what she says here definitely resonates with me to a degree. I also went to a Christian college my freshman year, and let me tell you, ring by spring is definitely a thing. I'm talking about getting married at like 19 when you've only been dating for maybe 3 months. Don't get me wrong, it can work out, but geez.
Part of the reason why Ethan and I got married so young was because we were so tired of all the restrictions. We weren't allowed to text each other until we got engaged. When we first started dating, we were allowed to talk on the phone for 1 hour every 3 months. Like, it was really stupid.
Fast forward to the night, Olivia has this really adorable idea.
We got these lanterns, and Olivia thought it'd be cool to write on the lantern what we wanted to let go of and kind of move on from in the coming year.
I know, like, personally, I want to let go of fear. I want to be more confident in who I am.
I want to put down on here that I want better self-control.
I wrote on my balloon, my parents. Just, that was the only thing I wrote. Not being able to see my siblings, it almost feels degrading in a way. That's something that is very hard for me to get over. I honestly do not know how I will get over that.
I wrote, I'm letting go of my past, but never forgetting what it taught me, remembering where I came from and why I left, and chasing my dreams and following my black heart.
I honestly thought that this was a beautiful moment and a great way to end the episode. Episode 4 kicks off with Mariah teaching a yoga class. She talks about how she was introduced to yoga when she lived in Minnesota with her cousins.
I lived with my cousins and went to yoga classes with them and had a lot of fun. Fitness is something that I love, and I've always loved like working out. That was like my escape growing up.
Mariah then gets a few surprise guests during her class.
One more. Ready?
Mariah!
Whoa!
Although I believe that this moment was intrusive, I also believe that Barry had good intentions. He was smart to bring Isaac to help ease the tension, and I mean, I've never heard Kim say things like this about Mariah.
Within her is the ability to be a hard worker and do her job good.
Olivia and Ethan are beginning to look at houses so that they can move out of Cairo.
I love our little house here, but it is just way too close.
They find a house that they like that's about 30 minutes away, so they set up an appointment to go and view it. Meanwhile, Micah was driving around like an idiot and ruined his car.
I sold over half my cows to buy this car, and looks like I might need to sell the rest of them to fix it.
Switching over to the main Plath house, we see how Kim and Barry's sheltering hasn't only affected the children.
Our oldest daughter, Hosanna, is pregnant. We're gonna have a grandbaby in another state, and I wanna learn how to video conference.
Slightly interrupting, Lydia asks when she'll be able to get a phone.
While we're on this subject of phones and stuff, what time frame are you thinking about for me to get a phone?
I mean, probably like around the time that you get your license would be good.
Having my own phone might help bridge the gap with some of my family.
Back to the whole video conference thing. Kim is struggling because she has an Android, and I'm assuming Hosanna has an iPhone. What I find hilarious about this is it's being filmed in 2020, meaning Zoom is at its absolute peak, and yet she's currently downloading Skype.
I have to sign in.
Have you done this before?
No. What am I signing into?
The App Store.
Olivia and Ethan go to the house tour, and Olivia is instantly in love with it.
I really love this house, and I hope that Ethan likes it too.
After giving little to no reaction throughout the tour, Ethan finally admits that he did actually like it.
We are going to call the bank and see what we can do and see if we can make this work.
We learned last season that the Plath family doesn't go to a specific church, but teaches their children about God at home. I find it fascinating how this show was branded as a Christian family, but it feels so uncommon for Kim, and honestly even Barry, to talk about God. We only consistently hear about God's plan from Lydia.
When you live and one with God and you're, constantly in prayer, you're just always filled with so much peace.
I have said this sentence so much in my life, and I know for me personally, I was lying. It was nice journaling and speaking my anger, frustration, and pain out loud, but that peace aspect wasn't fully there. I thought I had to feel peace in order to be a good Christian, so I don't know. Maybe it's true for Lydia. She goes on to speak about how much she misses Ethan.
I love to write letters, but I'm not sure if I'd want to write Ethan a letter because I don't know if he would tell me to, not communicate with him anymore. And if he did, I think that would just be too much for me to bear at the time. So God has got a hand in this, and in the end, something good will come out of it.
The final scene of episode 4 includes a heart-to-heart with Mariah and Max.
I just really feel like as I've gotten to know you, I've really liked who you are. But then throughout that process, I also observed some things about us that aren't compatible right now.
Like what?
Like whenever I confront you about something, it's not even a yes or a no answer. It's you just freeze up.
Yeah.
Which is not communicating. And I also just feel like I've put in a lot more to this than you have. And then what was really just set it off was this past week, it's like we've been calling on the phone after work and stuff and before bed, and it was like you just weren't in the conversation at all. And I think that we should just take a step back.
Max, are you sure you're breaking up with me?
Obviously heartbroken, Mariah asks if they can still be friends. Max agrees, but under one big condition.
I also would like to meet your parents because the only thing that I know about them is what you've told me. I feel as if I venture into and get to know her past and her family, then I'll be able to understand her a lot more. And then by doing so, I'll be able to help her grow as a person. I just hope that it's part of God's plan and what our life is meant to happen.
At the Plath house, Kim is teaching the girls ballet.
Now that we have this new space, we have a room designated for workouts, exercise, ballet. I studied ballet in college, and by my 4th year of college, I was dancing on point in a local ballet company. My goal is to teach them the best that I can about everything in life.
Everything? Are you sure about that?
I know that some of the older children complain about their education or lack of.
Personally, I wouldn't call valid criticism complaining, but go on.
I just hope that at some point they'll be able to see that we have tried really hard to give them a well-rounded education. We've taught all of them piano, how to read music. Most of them have had voice lessons.
Now, I can't argue that these kids know a lot of things that I didn't learn in school, farming and mechanics being an example. But saying you've given them a well-rounded education and then only listing music-related skills is so funny to me. I love this next scene of Olivia and Ethan playing piano because I think it sums up their differences so well.
When I play piano, I see like ball gowns and chandeliers and like velvet elbow-length gloves. I don't know, like lots of little classy, nostalgic things.
When I play old jazz tunes, I see in my mind, I see old cars flying down dirt roads, and it comes alive to me.
Micah talks about how expensive fixing his car actually turned out to be.
Working like 11, 12-hour days at the auto parts store because I just spent like $2,000 to get my car out of the shop.
You may have noticed in the clip that Micah is standing with Isaac and Barry. He wanted to spend the day with Isaac, but wasn't allowed to do it without a parent there.
It is kind of annoying not to be able to spend alone time with Isaac. It's not like I'm going to go show him porn or something like that, like my parents are afraid of.
Thankfully, they do end up having a fun day.
1, 2, 3, jump. There it goes. Yeah, he did.
In a moment that I know I personally dreaded, Max meeting Kim and Barry. A theme of this show is when going to the Plath house, using the little girls specifically to ease the tension and awkwardness by just hanging out with them. Unfortunately, Kim and Barry actually hid away the kids until they got to meet Mariah's friend first.
I think we were waiting to deploy the little girls in phase 2.
Mariah does not care for this plan at all and leaves to go find the girls.
Hey,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry if
Nice
I
to meet
ruined
you.
your plan.
No, we didn't have a plan.
We just wanted to visit for 2 seconds.
So, what's everyone's first impressions of each other?
First impressions? He seemed like a great guy.
My first impressions of Kim and Barry was that they were honestly really nice and welcoming. I know it was a little bit awkward for them too because they don't really know me and there wasn't a whole lot of information of who I was.
One part that was very sweet about this encounter was Max actually going to spend time with Isaac. Isaac dreams of being an Air Force pilot, and his parents even got him this super nice flight simulator. It's funny that they don't constitute it a video game, but I also see the benefit of him learning those skills safely at home until he can actually fly.
And then we'll just drastically change direction.
Ears.
You're going down.
This sweet moment ends, and Max somehow gets stuck talking to Barry and Kim alone. I wish I could show this entire scene without getting hit for copyright, but please know it is so incredibly awkward how they decided to edit it.
Has Mariah told you anything about our adventures? Yeah.
The chugging water sound and him just staring over his glass got me. After a while, Mariah does realize what's going on.
I'm upstairs and I realize Max isn't there and I'm with all my siblings, so it's like, oh shoot.
Have I done a
It's
good
very
job?
good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you stopped by.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess Mariah did a great job that day because Max decided that he actually wanted to get back together with her.
But now I'm kind of reconsidering, and I think I need to not keep her waiting because those feelings of romance are definitely still there.
At Ethan and Olivia's, they get some devastating news.
Have you heard back from the realtor yet?
Yeah, we didn't get the house. Someone else got it. Do you want to talk about it?
I feel trapped here. And would it be so bad if I was trapped in a place I like?
Trapped was one of my big themes when I first started talking to a therapist. So I heavily relate here. I also relate to packing up and just going far away from where you came. Have you ever heard of the song Colorado by Renee Rapp? Well, I can say for me, my life is better because I moved to Colorado. Unfortunately, Ethan and Olivia aren't at the moving stage yet. so they don't have a place to go to.
Like, all I know is everywhere I look around Cairo, there's just triggers, and I just want to.
I think a very amazing thing that came out of this moment was Ethan's reaction to Olivia being so upset.
Because he doesn't even really know how he feels, it's hard for him to kind of grasp how I feel. And today I felt like maybe for the first time he understood a little bit and wanted to make things better.
I think that that is a beautiful ending to the episode despite the heartbreak. Maybe Ethan and Olivia are going to make it. All right, so that was the first half of Welcome to Plathville Season 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment below, and just let me know that you did enjoy it. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye!